Hi, everybody. Welcome out to the Logroom Guys Craft Beer Show. It is Tuesday, December the 17th, 2024. Jersey Johnny coming at you. With me, as always, is none other than Mr. Beer Samurai eating food.
Eating food. This isn't food.
It's not food? What is it?
It's White Castle.
It's White Castle. Oh, it's not food. You're right on that.
Definitely not food.
Some rat burgers to start the show?
Yep, so I've got some rat burgers freshly caught.
There you go.
Our opening song is actually quite apropos today.
Yeah.
Tell me there's waffles, maple syrup dripping from his fake rug. Right, because it is National Maple Syrup Day, and we're going to celebrate today a little bit.
Happy National Maple Syrup Day for those who celebrate. I, for those of you that do know, am one of those people. So,
your favorite adjunct in beer, John?
My favorite adjunct in beer and in other things. My favorite adjunct in beer, my favorite adjunct in old fashions, and some other cocktails. And I'm even having my last maple leaf cream cookie.
Aren't you fancy?
Saved it just for
the show.
This show. There you go. I'm going to take a bite of it, and I'll savor it throughout the show. I'll take a bite here and there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll savor my last White Castle too during the show.
Yeah, you might want to just get. You might want to just get it down and finish it.
You mean the one bite it?
Yeah. No, I don't know.
I used to be able to two bite a Big Mac.
Really?
And my sister, well, no, actually, one of my friends said, "Well, if you can two bite a Big Mac, you should be able to do two White Castles in one bite."
Oh hell yeah! No, no. To be quite honest with you, one Big Mac is probably closer to somewhere between 3 and 4.
Yeah, so I managed to do that, but then my sister one time nearly killed me because she challenged me to do it to a Whopper.
Yeah,
and this. I did it. I nearly stopped breathing. I nearly needed the Heimlich, but I'm out of competitive eating.
There you go.
Actually, you can't call it competitive eating. Moronic eating would
moronic eating
because I wasn't winning anything.
100%.
Yeah.
On that note, we normally wait till the guest comes on to throw up a comment, but I just want to throw up Dave Campanelle's comment right now. He said, "Every week I say to myself, I won't come back for the shenanigans. And every week the shenanigans keep pulling me back in.
Every time I think I'm out, pulls me back in."
And Kat Reyes just commented, "I wonder where y'all have been. Nice to see you back in action."
We've been here every Tuesday.
We didn't go anywhere. We've been here every Tuesday, Kat.
Every Tuesday. But we are celebrating something else today.
We are.
Was it 89?
It was December 17th, 1989. Yes. 35 years ago today.
35 years ago today. It had already been running on the Tracy Ullman Show for a little while, but
as a segment on the show, right?
The Simpsons, as its own freestanding show, made its debut.
Happy Simpsons Day for those to celebrate.
Yeah. So
I was going to drink some Duff beer, but I couldn't find any.
Well, eat my shorts.
There you go. And eat your shorts, yeah. And as it figures. Right before you brought that up, when I was putting in the overlay there, for the comment for Happy Simpsons Day, I realized that I do have a Homer Simpson beer holiday beer shirt, and that's what I should have worn on the show today.
That's what you should have worn. But the Nakatomi Plaza is very, very appropriate.
Yes, it is. This was the first annual Christmas party.
Yeah.
I got out there early, fortunately,
yeah.
But. There you go.
I called out sick that day, so.
Yeah, this is true. There you go. We had a couple other comments, but I'm thirsty, and I think our guest is too. So let's bring him on. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, folks, please welcome to the broadcast this week, Mr. Marty Nachel from the American Craft Beer Hall of Fame and many other.
Yeah. That's his most recent gig.
That's the most recent gig. There you go. How are you, Marty?
Doing swell.
Doing good, doing great. Yeah, it's the holidays. It's right smack dab in the middle of everything going on, and a lot of great, parties and cocktails and beer and food, and what more could you ask for, right? To wind up the year.
I would like to start with a question.
Go for it.
Can you really savor a White Castles?
No, that was a misspeak. That was an entire misspeak.
I thought you were just kidding, so I gave it a wink.
I make lots of mistakes. We'll discuss some of them on the show today. Actually, with the first beer, we'll discuss one of my mistakes.
This is very true. It's very true. How are you on this fine day, Marty? How's everything in the Midway?
Can't complain. I mean, it's typical weather. You just deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Keep me from going where I need or want to go. So until it does, I won't bitch.
How far are you as the crow flies to the lake?
About 20 miles.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, I'm suburban, southwest suburban.
Right. No, I knew. Yeah, suburban. Right, but yeah,
Like
close enough to get all of that.
Oh, sure. Lake
that
effect, yeah.
good wake effect and wind and everything else. So.
Sure.
out by Naperville, or that Joliet.
I'm actually closer to Joliet. Yeah, you're in the neighborhood.
Yep.
There you go.
Yeah, I've been out there. I went out there for a wedding once.
Mm-hmm.
In Joliet, did you?
It's an interesting wedding. There were shotguns involved.
There you go. Was it Jake or Elwood?
Yeah.
And I danced with a wooden chair.
For those of you that know what I mean.
if you know the song.
There you go. Cool. All right. Well, let's get to it. We got a lot to talk about tonight, but I think we're all thirsty. Let's have a beer. Marty, what are you imbibing this evening?
Well, I got a couple on the theme. Excuse my lean hair. I'm going to be starting with Old Jubilation.
Very nice.
You're starting at Old Jubilation.
Wow. Starting with Old Jubilation.
See, Marty knows what John's drinking on the show, so he's going to one-up him right off.
He's going to one-up me right away. There you go. And I had that. Was that 3 weeks ago on our holiday beer show? I had an Old Jubilation. I couldn't find. Fortunately, I had one left over from last year. I couldn't find any this year.
This is the first time I could actually find it in my area. We have Avery products at the local stores, but not this one. This is the first time I found it, so yeah, of course I had to pick it up.
And we do as well, and it's like every other year. So maybe Avery doesn't make enough of it. They ship to some areas one year and some other areas another year. So
could be.
I'll get it again next year. You'll get it in 2026.
There we go. We have an exchange program going.
Yeah.
There you go. And Samurai, what are you imbibing?
Speaking of my earlier mistakes, I was in a liquor store that John sent me to, as a matter of fact.
I did.
Because I was looking for something specific. Didn't find it, but found a bunch of other stuff.
Well, you found other things, right?
Yeah, which is great. Actually, my first two beers on the show were bought that day. And this one, I didn't have these on at the time, so I picked this up
Glasses?
Yeah, reading glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Chicago, and I thought it said Chicago Craft Beer Week, and I thought it'd be a cool thing to drink on the show with Marty Nachel. But it's Chicago Craft Gin Week 2022 from Off Color, so it's still cool beer to drink with Marty Nachel on the show. It's a sour aged in it's a gin barrel aged American wild ale with Rangpur limes added. Mm-hmm. So, and the limes and the juniper actually work very well together.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I just took a sip out of the bottle, or smell out of the bottle, I should say. And I will have that in a moment. How is it? Your first reaction? Oh, you've had it before, you said.
Yeah, I've had it before, and I just mentioned it. Pay attention, John.
To your palate, I meant on that sip.
Well, it's working very nicely. It's bringing out like the piquancy of the onions in the White Castle.
So it's not a good pairing for what you're eating.
And it's knocking down the sweetness of the ketchup a little bit.
There you go.
I think they changed the ketchup they're using. It's a little sweeter than it's been.
Gotcha.
It's definitely not Heinz. I'll tell you that.
There you go. No, of course. I'm sure it's not.
No.
All right. Let's throw those couple comments up there really quick, and then we'll get going on it. Brian Boak said, "Cheers out of the house, so no beers at the moment."
No, he'll get to a place, and then we'll know what he's drinking.
Then we'll know what he's drinking. There you go. Dave Campanelle said, "Happy Simpsons Day." Is that code for Happy Time Traveler Day?
That's because the Simpsons have this way of always predicting the future.
Yep.
There's the number of incidents now has gotten obscene.
It's staggering. It's ridiculous. Yep. Absolutely.
You know, they've predicted what three of the last 4 Super Bowls.
Yep.
Trump becoming president.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they predicted it a second time, but
right.
You know, there's a lot of things they've predicted that at the time you thought was just
crazy.
Yeah.
Unless it's not necessarily predictive, unless it's just influential, right? So they say it, and then it happens kind of because they said it.
So with the Super Bowl wins, you think the NFL is fixed and they just are Simpsons fans?
Come on, right? I mean, anyway. And then Cat Reyes said, "It's Marty Nachel."
Yes, it is.
A little cat emoji up afterwards. So there.
Yeah, we
Good
go.
friend cat.
Anyway, all right. So let's dive right into it. You announced, what was it? August 1st, right? You announced the American Craft Beer Hall of Fame, the launch
Nominees.
of the nominees, right? Yeah.
Right.
And how many nominees were there for the first inaugural slate?
We ended up with 19.
Okay.
Our goal was to come up with 20.
Okay.
And just because of the way the numbers worked out, it only ended up being 19. We just to give you a real quick background, we asked of our advisors. We have a group of advisors of about 44 people.
Okay.
And we asked
More advisors than nominees. Okay.
we asked them to give us their nominations for who they think should make the Hall of Fame, especially this being the inaugural year.
Sure.
And we were shocked that we got 71 unique names coming back at us.
Wow.
Well, granted, the vast majority of those
were similar.
Right. Well, no, a lot of them were
Unique.
similar.
He said unique.
Right. No.
More of them were unique. Like, one vote for this person, one vote for this person, and
Wow.
there were a lot of those. So that made it very difficult when we wanted to winnow it down to, like I said, ideally we wanted 20 people. But the way the numbers worked out, it just didn't work out. So we
worked out to narrow it down to that 20, you had to narrow it down to 19.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Thank you for summing that up better than I was.
But by the rules used to narrow it down, right?
Right.
Yep.
Fair enough. But that's awesome. And we won't, I don't know whether you want to talk about, I know we're not talking about the winners. That's going to be announced. We'll get to when you're announcing that in a little while, but I don't know if you want to talk about some of the nominees at all by name or.
Sure. We can talk about all of them if you'd like.
Have at it. Yeah, have at it. That's what we want to. That's what we want to know.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to do this. I do have the list in front of me, and it's alphabetical. So, Charlie Bamforth, Larry Bell, Sam Calagione,
Sam,
Brett Eckhart, Terry Ferendorf, Charles Finkel, Burt Grant, Ken Grossman, Julia Hers, Michael Jackson, Kim Jordan, Jim Cook, Fritz Maytag, Jack McAuliffe, Garrett Oliver, Charlie Papazian, Pete Schlossberg, Carol Stout, and Don Younger.
Nice.
That's a hell of a list.
That's a hell of a list.
Made it kind of tough on the voters.
Yeah.
I do have a question for you.
I hope so.
American, yeah, this is what we do. American Craft Beer Hall of Fame. Is Michael Jackson eligible?
This was a discussion that we had many months ago because obviously I think I know what you're alluding to, the fact that he's not American.
Right.
The agreement that we came to on the board of directors was that anybody who had any measurable influence, positive influence on the American craft beer industry, they're eligible. So that brings in people like Michael Jackson and forgetting his name, Pierre Celis.
Pierre Celis,
yes.
And at some point, maybe Peter Bookert might be on that list.
Sure.
So yeah, there are obviously people not
American that makes perfect sense because I think we had mentioned that initially before you even had the nominees when you were on back in September whatchamacallit, we had at least Dave and I had discussed it, like I guess the week later or whenever we were talking about it, and that would be a shame to leave Michael Jackson off of it because of what he meant to so many people back in the day,
myself included.
Sure.
I mean, he was a big influence on me as a writer.
And he did more than most Americans did to talk up American craft beer.
Sure.
For the longest time, his favorite beer was an American craft beer, right? Alaskan smoked porter.
Yep.
Yeah, was not ashamed of admitting that. I'm sure he pleased so many people in Great Britain when he did that, but
You know what? And if any of those people in Great Britain that were displeased with him saying that, if they ever drank Alaskan smoked water, they'd understand why.
Yeah, they probably changed their mind.
And it wasn't just his books, by the way. I have it up there on the shelf. The Beer Hunter series that was on television.
Yep.
That really played up American craft breweries back then.
100%. Yep. Yeah, that was awesome. So yeah, I'm happy that was the conclusion that was coming to. That's definitely something that was well thought out and well written. Cool. So what was so you went through and the 44 or so advisors. Thank you. Put in the names and you whittled it down to the 19. What was the process at that point as far as voting? Was it just another, basically the same as the nominees, and then voted and brought it down to the 10, or were, do some of the judges have the final word, or how does the process work?
Okay, well, when it came to the nominations, we simply contacted our advisors by email and solicited their nominations via email. So that was pretty simple.
Sure.
For the actual voting, we wanted it to be much more official and much more foolproof.
Sure.
So we actually used an online a company that exists out there. We pay for their service. We provided a link to all of our electors who there were just over 100 of them, 104, I think was the final tally. And we said, okay, here's your link, click on that, go to this. And we had all the 19 names. All they had to do was click. And they could only pick 10, by the way.
Sure. Oh, it would cut them off at 10.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've seen a bunch of forms like that where if you click an 11th, it either, I like the ones that you can't click an 11th. You have to unclick something. Yeah. But I have seen some forms where if you click an 11th, it gets rid of one of the other ones. So you can,
you got to keep track of it.
You got to keep track of it. It makes no sense. So yeah, I like that you're like, all of them are open for selection, and as soon as you hit 10, they're grayed out. You can't click anymore. So that's actually smart. They did it like that instead of just the emailing and everything else. So you get the form, they got all the data, and they send it in, and there.
Well, that was the nice thing. We use SurveyMonkey, and because they take that information and they compile it and they put it in nice, colorful graphs and pies and all that kind of good stuff, make it very easy to understand and ingest.
Sure.
And to share, because only a couple of us on the board of directors have access to that, but we do share it with our advisors so they can see that everything's above board. It's all about making sure that we're legit. We want people to know that and build the trust and all that kind of good stuff.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, you don't want the backlash that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame gets every year.
Yeah, right.
Please don't even get me started on that.
I would like to add, if I may.
Please do.
I did name a couple of names here, and when we compiled this list of nominees and we sent that out to our voters, a couple of our advisors voiced something that was very important to them and ultimately important to the entire process, and that is that people like, for instance, Charles Finkel. I don't know if you guys know who Charles Finkel is.
I have to admit I don't.
Okay, he was very instrumental in bringing a lot of imported beers to the United States back in the early, like the 70s and 80s.
Okay.
So most of the best beers from Britain and Germany and Belgium, he was responsible for bringing those to the United States. So a lot of people, myself included, cut their teeth on those imported beers.
Right.
Not only that, but he and his wife, Roseanne, also opened the Pike Place Brewing Company.
Oh, yes.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay. Yep. So anyway, to make a long story short, a lot of people felt that Roseanne was getting cut out of the hall by focusing strictly on Charles. So in 3 cases, and I'll explain them all in just a second, in 3 cases, we agreed that we would add spouses or significant partners onto the ballot. So where Charles Finkel appeared on the ballot, it was Charles and Roseanne Finkel.
As one unit. So if hypothetically, if he did, or if they did, if that moves on to getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, it's the two of them together as one
Exactly.
entry.
Exactly.
And that way they're not stealing votes away from each other.
Correct. Yes. And there are 3 situations. I'll go ahead and tell you the other 2. Do you recognize the name Jack McAuliffe?
I do. When you said it, like I know it, I can't place what it is, but I do know the name Jack McAuliffe.
He's the person who is given all the credit for opening the very first craft brewery in the United States since Prohibition. In 1976, he opened up New Albion Brewing Company.
Jack McAuliffe. Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, our advisors were quick to point this out to us, and we're grateful that they did. That he, although they don't get any of the credit, he had 2 partners. One of them was Susie Stern and Jane Zimmerman. So they also appeared on the ballot along with Jack.
Along with Jack McAuliffe, right?
And those names also sound familiar. And that's actually from one of your advisors' books, as a matter of fact. That I read, A Woman's Place is in the Brew House. That story is very aptly told.
Yep.
That would be Tara Nurin.
Yeah, it would be Tara Nurin. Yep.
Last but not least, you guys may or may not know Carol Stout. Stout Brewing Company out east.
Stout Brewing in Pennsylvania. Yes.
Her husband Ed was, even though Carol was the face of the company, her husband Ed was very much involved in the process of starting the company and moving it along and making it what it became. So again, on the ballot, it became Carol and Ed Stout. We thought that was appropriate.
Again, that story's in A Woman's Place is in the Brew House. So getting Tara some pitching her book here.
Well, you've done it on we did it while she was on the show, and you've done it probably about 13 times since she's
it's a good read. If anybody who's listening hasn't read it, you need to read it because it's
right over there.
Mine's right over there. The history, and not just the history of craft beer in the U.S., but world history. When it first came about, how it's worked through all the different cultures. So it's definitely a great read, and she really balances out the writing back and forth between those 2 facets of the book.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I'm assuming Marty has read it.
I'm embarrassed to say that I haven't. I'm well aware of it. I'm not ready yet.
Yeah. Well, we know what you're doing over winter break, Marty.
It's not too late to put it on my Christmas list.
There you go.
But,
just order from her. She'll personalize it for you. Actually, mine's signed.
There's that.
It is a very good read, I definitely enjoy reading it. There's a lot I enjoy reading too. Certain beer judging books, and, other things that have been written.
Mine's still on my tablet, as a matter of fact.
It's still on your tablet. There you go.
Yeah, it's by this guy Marty Nachel. If you've heard of him, he seems to know what the hell he's talking about.
I think he does. You read through it, and he definitely has he definitely has the the take on things. So, how many things have you written to date, Marty?
Well, I guess it depends on whether we want to consider Beer for Dummies and Home Brewing for Dummies 1 book or 3 books.
It's 3 books. It's 3 books.
Okay. The book that I wrote previous to that, my very first one, which is this one that nobody ever heard of.
Beer Across America.
No. Oh, I've seen it.
I've seen it. I've read it. I never owned it. A buddy of mine has it. I would imagine he still has it. And I read it, but
you can find it in thrift stores everywhere.
Actually, I've been in breweries where it is sitting on the shelf.
You know what?
That's how I've read it.
Yeah.
Nice. That was 1995, and didn't go very far, but it did lead to the next projects, which were Beer for Dummies and Home Brewing for Dummies, and I've done all 3 of those are in 3rd editions now. And then there's just my personal projects that I've done on Amazon.
Very nice. Very nice. We we know a couple of those. We'll fill you in later as far as the personal projects on Amazon. But no, that's awesome. And that book was I don't want to say it's ahead of its time, because obviously there was that bust, right, in the 90s. It's a little bit of a boom in the States, and then it was it tanked, yeah, and then it slowly came back, and I was loving every minute of it coming back, and you gotta love it. Whatchamacallit. But as far as your to finish up the Hall of Fame, I did neglect to say this, and we'll talk about it later, and I'll mention it again at the end of the show. Anybody that's watching right now, just in case they tune in and tune out or whatever, when is the release of the first slate of people going to be announced?
All right, the grand announcement is going to be on Saturday, February 8th. We've locked that date in. We're actually, I don't want to get too deep into details because we're still locking them down, but we do have some big name breweries across the country who are going to be participating. It's going to be a live stream event, and so we're should be good.
Should be good.
Now, am I right in guessing there are 10 inductees based on what was said?
Actually 9.
9.
Mm-hmm. We wanted 10, but again, the numbers didn't work that way.
The numbers didn't work that way. You have to go with I'm assuming like for the 19, if you wanted to add that extra one, you would have had to add an extra 3 or something like that. And,
probably yes.
Or so forth. And then the same thing with the
You could have just added Johnny.
Next year.
There you go.
I don't want to be inaugural. Next year we'll do it. On that note, too, Doug Smith actually just commented in. He goes, "We used to read Marty's newsletters in the Beer Across America shipments."
Yeah, 1992 is when that started.
No, that's not.
You were pondering. It was like
I was trying to figure out if that was the club I was in. I don't think so. There was another one.
Well, BAA was the very first one in the United States.
BAA was. I wasn't in it, but I was the first one. I did know about it, and I did. Yeah. I did with a couple of people. I did have beers from it. I just wasn't part of it.
Say the club I was in, my favorite ever bottle opener came out of it. And it's this one. It came with the initial shipment.
Still have it,
and I still have it. This takes bottle caps off without any bend, flare, anything. So if you're a bottle cap, I mean, I don't collect bottle caps, but if you're a bottle cap collector, this baby.
There is one that I used to have. Don't have it anymore, but I used to have it. It was you put it over the top of the bottle, you push down, and it came up, and it just pulled the cap right off. It was inside it. You had to take it out, and all it did was just spread ever so slightly, spread the
I remember that
the bottom out, so it didn't bend it at all. It was a perfect circle. There wasn't like one side was open from another. And it was off. It was pretty cool. I took a lot of caps and saved a bunch of caps like that too, but I sadly do not have it anymore. So
February 8th.
February 8th. We'll talk about that again.
Calendars.
We'll talk about that. We'll post it when you do post it, and we'll definitely share any of those links.
In the new year, we're going to be doing a lot of social media blasts.
Awesome. That's great. Kat Reyes said, "You might be the godfather of beer judges, Marty."
Oh, hardly.
He's going to make you an offer.
Comment, Kate, but no, there's a lot of them out there. I'm just happy to be among them.
There you go.
But Marty will make you an offer you can't refuse.
There you go. There you go. All right. Or maybe he'll make us an offer.
Maybe not that kind of guy.
There you go. And then Doug Smith said, "BAA was great. 12-pack every month with something new. Missed those early days." You know what? I do too.
So do I, Doug. So do I.
I miss those early days.
It's funny because we just sound like a couple of old guys sitting here going, "Oh man, it was so much better back in the day." But it was so much better back in the day.
It was. It really was. It
was better.
It was. Palettes have expanded, so that's one good thing, and not just other people's, ours as well, right? I mean, they really have everybody's.
Hopefully.
I hope so, right?
But then there's also this thing now where everybody is trying to do something different because everything's been done now. Rather than just trying to do something that's been done and do it the best, they're trying something different. And this is a segue into my second beer chop.
Right. Yeah. So why don't you talk about that, and we'll get back to the other stuff afterwards, because this is a talking point that Dave's been wanting to just go nuts on since probably about 11:30 this morning. So
it's when you called me.
Exactly.
It got me going on because that's when I like, I'm going to drink this beer on the show.
Exactly.
So I'm going to read the description of this beer before I tell you what it is. And I want to watch Marty's face as I read this. It is a Persian-style sour ale brewed with black cherries, pomegranate arils, Persian black limes, and damask roses.
They're making shit up.
That's exactly what this says. I'm not that creative to make that up.
Okay, so he said they're making shit up.
Oh, they're making it up. Okay.
Yeah.
So this beer is called Sheka. So it's by Nightmare. Nightmare, they have very unique labels. And all their names have something to do with death. And if you want to, and I'm not going to, John and I looked up Sheka earlier today.
Yeah.
And we came to the conclusion we are not saying what it means on the show. If you want to know what it is, go to Urban Dictionary and put in SHEKKEH. But please, actually, don't do that. Don't blame me when you finally figure out what.
When you read what the Urban Dictionary says Sheka is, don't blame us for it. Blame Nightmare.
Yeah, blame Nightmare.
Blame Nightmare for your nightmare.
Now, as usual, I drink all my nightmares out of my burial glass, mostly because
it works.
Yeah, that works. It goes with their, with the genre that they like.
Sure.
And when you first smell this, it's almost kind of like it's almost like peach with all that in there. And I don't know how that smell comes out of there, but they put all these ingredients in there. And it doesn't taste much different than most other multi-fruited sour. Because how could it?
Are you able to pick out any one of those individual ingredients?
The pomegranate, I think, of all of them, might be the only one that pops out a little bit. Because I used to drink Home all the time, so I do know what pomegranate tastes like. I loved pomegranate juice for a while. Then it got really, really, really expensive when it became a fad. The black lime, if the black lime's there, it's only there as a mouthfeel. Rose always just mostly throws mouthfeel rather than flavor anyway.
Sure.
But I'm not getting, kind of that dusty, velvety mouthfeel that you get off of Rose sometimes. Sure. That's not there. You're getting more of that, the wild ale, bitter lime mouthfeel out of it. But the flavor's not really there. I'm not getting the cherry so much, and it's the first thing. It's the first thing listed, but it says black cherry, and I know what black cherry. One of my favorite American ciders is a black cherry cider. Because your partner's favorite is
Mackenzie's. Yeah, Mackenzie.
Yeah, I don't like the rest of their ciders, but the black cherry one is really good. But
it is really good. It's so well done. It's silly, but yeah, black cherry is an unmistakable flavor. So if you're not getting any of that, like pomegranate couldn't cover up black cherry.
Yeah, it's and this is the thing. Now, don't get me wrong. We're kind of like. I don't want to get on their case too much here because they do make some really good beers. Defenestration of Prague. Defenestration means killing somebody by throwing them out of a window of a tall building.
Hello?
Yeah, there you go. There. There's a defenestration in that.
This is the defenestration of the Nakatomi Plaza.
There we go. That's actually a really good beer. But they put out the Schwarz beer, and the Schwarz beer, I was really excited. Okay, they're doing a straight up Schwarz beer. They've got so many hops in there, it might as well be a black ale. And if I want a black ale, I'll buy a black ale.
Sure.
If you're going to do a Schwarz beer, do me a Schwarz beer.
Right.
So I wasn't that appreciative of it. I've got a Kolsch I got from them that, again, it's a little over hopped. And that's something we've been doing in the United States for the longest time, over hopping Kolsch's. Because we love to overhop everything. It's what we do here. But they do have, there is one sour that's made with green tea that actually the tea comes out and the flavors do come out because there's only like 2 ingredients in it. That one I enjoyed a lot. So there are some they do that are very good, but I think there's that they want to do something different. And they put all these things in there. and because the ingredients they're using, these are not cheap 4-packs. These are $20 plus 4-packs. So it's, it's up to you if you want to try them or not. But this one I think is, I'm not sure it's worth what I paid. I understand the ingredients make it worth what you paid for it. The final product, however.
I'm not saying I haven't had it, so I'm not commenting on it. But I'm not saying this particularly for this particular beer, but just in general. Like, I understand, as a brewery owner, I get wanting to make your money back if you're putting a lot of money into making that particular beer. I get it. But you have to weigh, you have to figure that out before you actually go ahead and make the beer, right? Is it going to be worth what you're spending to make the beer? If it's not, don't make the beer. I mean, this is, after all, business. Now, if you're a philanthropist, you're philanthropic, and you want to charge $14.99 for a 4-pack of a beer that, in order to make your money back, you need to charge $24.99.
That has Damask roses in it.
Have at it. Short of that, you got to think business-wise. You got to think, is this worth me doing? Right?
And Marty, you've had to come across a lot of beers like this.
Too many.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Any standout?
Whew. Wow. Well, all right. Let me add that many of the ones that I have tasted, I tasted during a judge session, so I couldn't even tell you what it was. In other words, I don't know who brewed it.
Right.
So that's probably where I've tasted most of these concoctions.
Mm-hmm.
I won't go out of my way. I won't spend my money on those kind of concoctions, because to me that's, and I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not putting down an entire subsection of craft beer. It's just not my bag. Right. I'm not going to drink that stuff, because to me it's not beer.
Agreed.
Just one man's opinion.
Yeah, no, it's both of ours too, and I'm like-minded. If you like that, have at it. Enjoy it. Drink what you want to drink. Sure. I'm not going to tell you what to drink. I'll drink what I like. You drink what you like, and everybody's happy.
Don't be a douche.
Right. Exactly.
We've heard that somewhere.
We've heard that somewhere. I think it's in your bio on the website.
I think it's in my bio.
But in any event, but my point is, yeah, it's not for me.
But here's the thing. Just like you've got the breweries trying to find something different, those of us who've been drinking craft beer for a very long time, every now and then we go on that search for something different. So you see something on the shelf, you look at it like, well, that's interesting. Now, I have to admit, I didn't really read this whole thing before it was purchased. So you read something like, well, that's different. I want to try it. And sometimes it's a bust, and sometimes, hey, that was kind of cool. Mm-hmm. Only because we've had it all. We've drank every iteration of everything. And you just get to the point where now what you're looking for is, I want that beer, I want that style, but I want it perfect. I want a nice, clean, beautiful example of that style. And that's where most of us have gotten to after getting through what we call the experimental awkward years. And this was, me like, okay, well, let's give this a shot. This is interesting. I like what some of the stuff that Nightmare does. Let's see what they did with this one. And whereas the beer is drinkable. Don't get me wrong, the beer is very drinkable. It's just underwhelming.
Yeah. I'll say something and I'll get your take on it, Marty. I personally can appreciate every style. There's not one style that I don't appreciate. If it's not for me, it's not for me, but I can appreciate the thought that went into the recipe, the skill that went into the brewing of it.
The craft
that went into the brewing of the beer itself, the idea behind the style and where it came from, how it was developed and everything else. I'm all for that. So never say that never let anybody say that I'm somebody that, just puts down beers that I don't like. That's not true. As far as I'm concerned, if you like Budweiser, drink Budweiser. I don't know why you would, but have at it if that's what you want. But my point being,
cure the headache.
Yeah. But the headache, exactly. Marty, I've said this a million times on the show. Like, even when I was a kid and a friend of mine's older brother got beer for us, if he got Budweiser, I didn't drink it because it gave me a headache. And I don't mean it gave me a headache for the next morning. give me a headache while I was drinking it. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'll have a soda. You guys enjoy the beer, But yeah, so have at it. So I can appreciate every style, and if we wind up brewing something like that, it's not going to be overboard or over the top like that Nightmare is. I mean, just the sheer cost factor alone. But I'm just I'm all about the like you said, Dave. I'm all about the clean styles. Even IPAs, even I'm not even going to get into milkshakes or anything like that. Or these, some pastry stouts are fantastic, but these over the top beers are very well. Some of them are very, very, very well done, but they're a one and done beer for me. They're at some point they're like a 4-ouncer and done for me. That's my problem. So,
question.
What I was going to say to Marty, where do you stand on, like, will you? I'm sure you will, obviously, because you're not somebody that's going to turn away anything. But I mean, is it a one and done or a taster and done kind of thing for you, or just do?
I will try just about anything, and there isn't much I haven't tried. But like you said, everyone has their own tastes and their likes and dislikes. From a hedonic standpoint, there's a whole lot of beer styles that I don't particularly care for. Meaning that I wouldn't go to the store or to the bar and drink those or buy those for purely pleasure purposes. I have my favorites. I think we all do.
Yeah.
But as a beer judge, I'm obligated,
of course,
to drink a lot of these. Not drink, I should say, taste, evaluate a lot of these different beer styles, whether I like them or not. And I can appreciate them, just as you said, John. But that doesn't mean I have to like them.
No, right, exactly, and I've done so, and Dave has done so. I mean, Dave and I both judged nowhere near the level that you have, but we've dabbled, if you will, and yeah, I mean, I can appreciate anything that is put in front of me, and if it's well brewed, even if it's a style I don't like, if it's well brewed, I pride myself on knowing that I think I know what is well brewed and what isn't well brewed. If you give me the style, if it's true to that style, then it's well brewed, right? Even if it's a style I don't like. But yeah, you gotta be able to do that. Go ahead. You wanted to tell me a comment? I want to get a couple of these comments up there from Doug and Rod.
Yeah, do the comments first, and I have a question for the two of you.
All right.
Based off something you said.
Doug Smith just said, the Brew Guru and I, Brew Guru Marty, meaning John Starodomsky, and I are both acolytes of Michael Jackson. A beer library is not complete without the World Guide to Beer or Beer Companion. Both still relevant. Jackson set the bar very high, he said.
Indeed, he did.
Indeed, he did.
Both of those books, I've got a bunch of Jackson's books. My bookshelves are right up here. A whole bunch of them are right there in front of me.
There you go. Yeah, I think we all have at least one or several or a couple of them. I know Dave does.
In a box in storage.
In the box in storage, exactly.
Still counts.
It still counts, right?
They're there. Read them. Need to go back and read them one of these days.
Exactly. Rod J said, "Cheers, gents." Cheers,
hey,
Rod.
How you doing, buddy?
Cheers, Rod.
Thanks for checking in.
Thanks for checking in. You were just on Rod's show a few weeks ago, weren't you?
I was, yes, indeed.
That's a fun show, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It was, yes, it was.
And Rod's been on ours as well, and we got to get him back on ours.
Yes,
we got to get on his.
Yes.
So
yeah, we had a lot of fun with Rod.
And then Kat, I'll throw a couple of Kat's comments up here. She said, "You might need to burn some sage after that one, Dave."
No, I don't need another. I don't need another flavor in that beer.
And then she said, "Shaka means hang loose, not you spelled SHAKA means hang loose. SHEKKEH does not."
No, it's kind of, it might almost mean quite.
Cat put SHE.
Don't look it up. Don't look it up.
No, I want her to, and not to say I do want her to look this up because I think she can handle it. If I know Cat, she can handle it.
Yeah, she can handle it.
Cat, look on the Urban Dictionary, SHEKKEH. Check that out.
It does not mean hang loose.
It does not mean hang loose. Well, kind of maybe.
You don't want to know.
I think you don't want to know. And then she also said there were non-alcoholic beers at the last beer competition that she stewarded. Marty was there too. There you go.
Yep, up in Bend, Oregon.
There you go.
Nice.
She was at that one. Okay, Dave, your question.
We were talking about price points of 4-packs.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's worthwhile brewing a beer to the price point, where you've got a set price point for your 4-pack, and you want to do something, doesn't have an idea, but you make sure you keep the ingredients to a point where you can meet that price point for your customer? Or do you think that undermines your quality and creativity?
Marty, you take it first. I know my answer to this. So,
And I hate to do it to you, but can you please repeat the question? I didn't catch all that.
What I'm saying is, we were talking about price points. And when you're using the ingredients that Nightmare used in this beer, they're charging, I think, $23.99 for the 4-pack because the ingredients they're using. Do you limit yourself in your ingredient choices to make sure that you hit a particular price point or stay under a certain price point? Or do you feel that undermines your creativity and craft if you do so?
I think in a sense it undermines your craft. However, from a business point of view, I'm going to put myself in the brewer's position. I would never make a beer knowing that I would have to charge that price point if it's not going to sell. He has to have some kind of some concept of who his target audience is. Are they going to pay that kind of money? Does he have a following? Is
Right.
The breweries, do they have a track record of selling beers like this, and are they able to sell their inventory? If this is just out of nowhere, one off, and they think they can throw all this stuff together and charge almost $25 for a 4-pack, that doesn't sound very smart.
So you're saying build up to it.
Or at least, at least that, but also know your audience. Know who your customer is and who's going to pay that money.
Yeah, because you're looking at like a Drecker, right? Drecker Brewing, their price points have cut. I think they've gotten over $30 for some 4-packs because of what they've done, but it sells.
And kudos to them for it selling. But here's the thing too. Here's one thing, and I don't know what Drecker's in North Dakota, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know what Drecker sells for a 4-pack in North Dakota. I've never purchased a 4-pack of Drecker. Well, we're talking about the
You've never been to North Dakota, so
I've never been to North Dakota. I've been near North Dakota, but I haven't been to North Dakota. But I haven't. Right. But my point being, a lot of the exorbitant pricing of Drecker beers 4-packs in Jersey is the shipping and the transportation, the distribution, and it adds so much more to the cost of it for the company that's bringing that beer into Jersey for them to even just have it be worth it to them and make a couple of bucks, right? I would say that, to be quite honest with you, my guess, if I had to, without knowing anything, and I could be wrong, but my guess of anything is the transportation company probably made the most money of anybody in that process.
The distributor?
No. The transportation company, the company that actually brought the beer from North Dakota to New Jersey.
Don't forget the distributor's got their.
No, that's my point. The brewery made some money, and the distributor in Jersey made money, and the retailer in Jersey made money. But my guess is the largest percentage of that whole $30 plus that you're paying for that 4-pack was from a fee charged by the transportation company. And again, I could be wrong, but I would say that they're at least even or equal with everybody else. But I think they're probably a little bit more. But yeah, no, the price of the beer is up there anyway. I'm not saying that the beer would be a $16.99 4-pack in North Dakota when it's $34.99 in Jersey by any means. Of course, it's not. It's definitely more expensive there. But how much of that is the transportation? How much of it is the brewery and the ingredients and what they're charging, and how much is the transportation? That's my point. That's a question, Dave. I'm asking you what your thoughts are. Your opinion on what I just said.
Well, considering I'm in logistics, I do know what.
Right. That's why I'm asking you.
And there's too many factors to be able to figure that out because there's so many ways that you can ship. There's line haul, there's direct drive, there's air, there's so many ways that you can.
Well, you're not flying beer; it's obviously coming ground or train. So,
yeah, and train's another option. So all these different options all have different costs and risks as well. So it really depends on how they're doing and how much is going to cost, how much it's going to cost, and how much actually of the trailer you're taking up.
Yeah.
Because there's something called LTL, less than trailer load. Less than trailer load is going to, per pallet, cost you more than if you're taking up a whole trailer. So it really depends on how large your distro is, what your methodology is, and your routing is, what that cost is going to be. So, long story short, no way to know.
Right. Well, that's kind of where I was going with that. I mean, I think that it's a viable idea, but I obviously I could be wrong, but I think that's. Let's put it this way: they're at least sharing almost somewhat equally in adding to the cost of that particular.
Yeah, definitely adding to the cost.
Anyway, what I was going to say is to Marty's point and to your question was, I mean, we have, I just speaking from Coastal, we have a few different price points, if you will. We have our lagers and our smaller beer, price points, if you will. Our Schwarzbier, our ESB, our Belgian Pater's beer, our Abbey Single, our
your wheat beer,
our HEF. They're one price point. Then with our IPAs, there's a little bit of a range there. Some of the lower ones that we do year round, some of the one-offs that we do that have more hops in them, But there's a range in there, and some specialty ones. But my theory is that as long as we're within a range, we can pinpoint that. Like, I'm not going to nickel and dime somebody like, okay, the price of like our Trojan Seahorse has Galaxy hops, for instance. Galaxy hops go up one year or one batch or whatever. I'm not going to raise the price of Trojan Seahorse because I have to, I'm going to eat that 3 cents a can or whatever it is. It's a cost of doing business, so to speak. But when you're sitting down to write a recipe, and you're writing a recipe that inherently self-distributed, that 4-pack has to be to the consumer, price to retail has to be $30. I'm thinking twice about making that beer, unless I know damn well that people are going to just, I got to get this, and they're going to jump all over it because I'm not canning that much, and it's something that somebody's going to jump all over. Yeah, I mean that's fine. Maybe ramp it up, but yeah, to Marty's point, 100%. He's absolutely right. You gotta know what you're brewing and know what you're selling it for, and know it's going to sell before you even think about actually pursuing it.
Absolutely.
There you go. All right. Let's talk about some holiday stuff. It is December 17th. Week from tomorrow is Christmas. Week from right now is Christmas Eve. In case you weren't aware.
I should start my shopping.
Yeah, I wait till Monday. In fact, on Monday's show, I'll probably have just finished my Christmas shopping.
Hold on, let me jump on Amazon. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
I got an Amazon tab open right now. So.
There you go. He's been buying the whole show.
Okay, John's going on about Dave and Jim going about price points. I'm going to do some shopping.
There you go. Let's talk about some holiday beers. Now, we've talked about holiday beers on the show. We have our holiday beer show that we do the week of the Thanksgiving week. We do it the Tuesday of Thanksgiving week every year. We have our
with the aforementioned John Starodumsky.
With the aforementioned John Starodumsky and
the Beer Whisperer.
And the Weir Whisperer. The Weir Whisperer.
The Weir Whisperer.
Dyslexia can be cured. The Beer Whisperer, Tom Mulvihill, and what we call it, and a host of other commenters and everything else every year. It's fun. It's a fun show. But we have our show next week and everything else. But the whole, I try to have a couple of holiday beers, whatever, on each show in between each. So my question to Marty is, what are your? We've done this as a top 3 list. What are your holiday go-tos as far as holiday beers? What do you definitely seek out every year? Not just the top one, but in general, all of them.
Well, I think this is probably on all of your lists. Sierra Nevada, the
Yeah.
Celebration Ale,
Mhm.
Yeah,
top of the list for me.
you've been posting up a few vintage ones on Facebook recently.
Mhm.
It's like yes.
Oh, you mean six-pack holders? You mean those?
Yes, putting those up.
Right. So yeah, Celebration Ale. Another one that I don't know if you guys get. It's from Bell's. Their
Yes,
Christmas ale.
the Christmas Scotch Ale.
The Scotch ale is
Yeah,
amazing.
that's an amazing beer.
I'll be
It
having
is.
that Monday on the show.
What I love about it is there are so few Scotch ales out there, especially good ones.
Yeah,
So this one's up here for me. And then I have a little show and tell here.
Go for it.
This is one that my wife and I we treat this as it's actually a gift to ourselves. Every year we've been doing this since the mid 80s. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this. Have ever had Samichlaus?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is the beer. The Nature House.
Santa Claus is amazing. It's an amazing beer.
I might be.
You guys celebrate Samichlaus Day on the 6th?
I've done it beer wise,
Yeah.
right? I haven't done it like Santa Claus celebration wise, but I've done it.
I meant the beer, yeah.
So we were talking ahead of the show about the our big beer show that we do the Monday, the very last show of the year, and that is one of the beers I will be drinking. Will be the Samichlaus.
Samichlaus, yeah.
Because it does qualify for the 12% or over.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's up there. Samichlaus is amazing. To your
Yeah.
Let's talk about them, because I want to talk about not only holiday beers but holiday brewing traditions with you, because I think we can go back a little bit with holiday brewing traditions on this show with you. No offense to anyone that we've had on the show. Every guest in their own right has been amazing on the show, but some of the younger sect, obviously, we can't go back as far with them.
No.
Right?
You just called Marty old.
I called us old. Is what I called.
Don't insult the guests. Stop insulting the guests, John. Unless
I'm referring to the three of us, not just one.
Unless it's John Hall, you can insult.
Well, John Hall, he's younger than the three of us.
Well, no, he does a podcast with Augie Carton. He's used to being insulted, so.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah, so
insulting wise, yeah.
He's got a thick skin. So.
There's a reason for that, right? Exactly. Yeah. But let's talk about celebration for a second, because what I'm not sure if you know or you don't. Anybody that watches the show knows that is every year on the podcast on me. Yeah. It's my number one holiday beer when we do our holiday beer top 3 list. It's always perennially my number one. I plan certain holiday events around drinking that beer. All right, let's put it that way.
Putting the turkey in the oven,
drinking it. It's amazing. But anyway, it is probably one. I won't say the only, but one, certainly the biggest known. But for me, one of the only IPAs that you can actually sit on and enjoy an old, properly cellared version of it. I've had 12-year-old. Whatever year it was, right? 12-year-old celebration. And it's been, was it as good, or was it what it was? I won't say as good. Was it what it was when it was fresh? No. But it was still, it was not oxidized by any means. It was amazing as far as I'm concerned. So your thoughts on the cellaring of Celebration?
Me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, you.
Well, because Celebration is a very hop-forward beer, and by the way, don't get me wrong, I have also cellared Celebration, but I prefer it fresh because it's really all about the hops. I appreciate that really piquant hop aroma and flavor.
100%.
I have compared fresh to aged, and the aged does stand up fairly well, but obviously the hop aroma degrades. That pretty much goes away. The hop bittering isn't even there, or the hop flavor isn't really there anymore. What you're left with is mostly malt, and that's not a bad thing either.
Of course.
But again, speaking for myself, I prefer fresh.
Of course. when it comes to beer styles, because you just mentioned Bell's being a Scotch ale. Celebration said an IPA. IPA doesn't particularly scream holiday beer. Do you look at any particular styles that are more of a holiday beer style than others, or just how you adjunct it makes it a holiday beer?
Well, from a historical perspective, most winter beers in general, just across the entire season, not just necessarily the holidays, they were very malt oriented, higher alcohols. So pretty much any beer style that could be described as being malt driven, Scotch ales, Bock beers, anything in that range, Scottish ale or Scotch ale, anything in there is appropriate for seasonal drinking.
Yep.
I mean, obviously that's not something you're going to slam in the summer. So, when you take a look at a lot of the brands, especially from Europe, a lot of the Belgians and Germans, they come out with special Weihnachts beers, Christmas beers, and all of them are in that malty Scotch ale, Bock beer, double range. So I think those all work equally well.
I agree 100%. I mean, I am a huge Scotch ale fan, as Dave knows, and anybody else listening. But and any malty, any malt forward holiday ale, anything that's coming out of Germany or England for some part, but we'll get into old ales in a little bit. But Belgium and everything else, amazing. It's just odd to me, and has been for so many years, that I traditionally, habitually, annually, year after year, put Celebration as my number one over the maltier styles that I love so much better than a lot of IPAs. It's what Sierra Nevada does with that beer is just crazy. But on that note, though, saying that, and specifically speaking about an IPA, that's a or a hoppier ale, if you will, that's a holiday beer, and we're talking about holiday brewing traditions. I'm going to take you back to Catamount. Have you? There you go. He's drinking out of it. There you go.
Huh?
You that up perfectly.
I couldn't have planned that any better if we planned it like that. There you go.
Marty, you need to sweep your office for cameras. I would do that.
For those of you just listening to the audio podcast, I said what I said, and Marty picked up a glass and put it in front of the camera that said Catamount Christmas Ale.
So we have a feeling Marty may have heard of this beer.
I think he did.
Unreal.
It's unreal. It was such a good beer. I miss it. Oh, I wish I could have it.
I miss pretty much everything out of Catamount. I love their porter as well.
Yeah, the porter was fantastic.
I don't think I've ever had the porter, which is a shame. We talk about the malty holiday ales, and when you look at the winter warmers from the United States, most of them are heavily spiced or fruited or whatever, and that's just a malty or ale lends itself more for that kind of treatment.
Sure. Right,
because you don't really see a lot of that out of Europe, where they just let the malty ale kind of stand by itself. You see a lot of spice treatment. Belgium, yes. Yeah, Belgium.
Yeah, I was going to say probably not Germany.
No.
Probably not in England, but definitely
not England, but definitely Belgium.
Yeah. Spices in Belgian beers, yeah. Especially the anything Christmassy, New Year's, holiday.
Yep. Yeah, and certainly. I mean, Santa Claus is it's Austrian, right?
Well, it is. Yeah, used to be Swiss.
Right.
Did the border change or did they move? you never know when
you never know. You never know. Yeah.
Was there a war we missed?
Oh no, we're America. We don't miss too many wars.
No. Yeah. Well.
Yeah, they used to be brewed at Hurleman in Switzerland, and I don't remember the year, but at some point in time, either that brewery closed or they discontinued brewing the Samichlaus. And several years later, the Eggenberg brewery out of Austria picked it up and started rebrewing it. But there was a span of time of like 6 to 10 years where it was not being produced at all.
That's crazy.
Oof, that's a shame.
That's
But
crazy.
luckily, it's back.
Luckily, it is back and has been for a while, and it's amazing.
And there's like, what, 2 iterations of it every year? There's the red label and the brown label.
Yeah, the brown label is considered the regular, even though it's the darker version. And this one is what they call the Helles, or the pale version.
Right.
And it's not all of that much more pale than the dark, but
It's a very negligible difference.
0.3 SRMs.
Right. But to your point of the other beers, though, and you would, for your first beer on the show, you had Old Jubilation, and that's
right.
an old ale, and there's a lot of, to me, I still think of like a lot of English beers, old ales, as far as holidays go, right? Figgy pudding, a lot of Britain, a lot of English traditions in the holidays, right? But old ales is one of my favorite styles, and Old Jubilation is just an amazing beer.
We're going to count on this show how many one of my favorite styles John comes up with.
Oh, please. I have too many favorite styles. That's the
one
problem.
per show at least.
He's up to
Per
3.
show per year. That's
I
the
think he's
problem.
up to 3 on this show, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But in any event, but I just wanted to touch on that. But you had mentioned Bell's Christmas ale.
Mhm.
I find it so unique that Bell's actually picked a Scotch ale to do for their Christmas offering every year. And it's an amazing beer. Scotch ale is an amazing style to begin with, but they brew a very, very good one. And the size of the brewery they are right now, and what they're doing with their distribution and their brewing and everything else to brew this beer and have it be as good as it is each year. I think it's well done. I mean, I think it's amazing that they do that every year. It's an undertaking. I mean, to run off a winter warmer each year, to run off any of those typical styles that anybody does for a holiday offering, because a lot of breweries will just run off a smaller amount because it's a small window, right? You're end of October, beginning of November, and you're done by the second week in December. You're not selling any more of it, right? So there's a small window to get that beer out.
I'll also buy it.
For them to do a Scotch ale, I love the fact that they do that. As big as they've gotten,
Right.
they still do that.
And under the new ownership too.
Right, exactly. So thoughts on that? That's where I was going with that.
Right.
That was for you, Marty.
That was for you, Marty. Thoughts on Bell's actually continuing every year to release a Scotch ale for their holiday beer.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that they continue coming out with it blows me away, and I'm grateful because when I see it on the shelf, I grab it and run.
Absolutely.
I order it.
I grabbed, in the interest of full disclosure, I grabbed 2 6-packs of it this year.
It's like it's like Black Friday sale. Grab it, protect it, make sure you get to the register.
Exactly.
Now, you were talking about Marty's first beer. Has anybody opened their second beer? Because I've finished mine.
I finished my second beer and I didn't even put mine up. Marty, did you open a second beer? Or are you still
I did not. Not yet.
And have at it then. What are you opening?
This would be from Three Floyds. This is Alpha Claus.
I love this.
Alpha Claus is great.
Now, here, earlier I was quoted as saying that
you had it on the show last year, didn't you?
I had it on the show this year.
You did. That's right. You did.
Because I wanted to see how it held up, because I was talking about how, a very, IPAs don't really scream holiday to me. And Alpha Claus is as about as hoppy of a porter as you can come across.
Yes, it is.
And man, they do and the thing is, if you sit on that a year and there's a little hop fade to it, of course. I preferred the year-old version to the fresh version.
I'm not surprised. I've never actually aged it out, but I can see that working. Absolutely, because you're right. It is, without question, the hoppiest porter I have ever had, which is, I guess that's pretty typical for Three Floyds.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Their rather judicious use of hops is one of their key points.
Yep.
And also playing death metal in their tap room is, I think, the other one.
Yeah, it's that tap room's amazing too.
I've never been. I need to get there.
Marty, obviously you live probably about a half an hour away from it.
45 minutes, but the tap room is closed.
Is it
really?
Yeah.
So I guess I'm not making it there.
So the did they close the distillery part of it next door?
The whole operation, the brewery, the distillery, that's all still going balls to the wall.
Right.
They just closed the brew pub and it's not open to the public to come in and buy.
So there's neither tap room, the small tap room for the brewery or the distillery, the big tap room for the distillery. That's all closed.
All closed.
Oh wow!
Wow.
How long ago was that?
Honestly, I don't know. The brew pub's been. I mean, that was mid-COVID that they closed that.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I was there. I was there the year before COVID. I was there in May of 2019. I was.
I'm actually going to be there tomorrow afternoon.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Meeting with Nick, we're going to be discussing these plans for our live stream event.
Oh, that's cool. Awesome. That's great to know.
You got to talk about reopening that tap room because the Samurai's never been, and I would really like to get there. Just
open it. Well, I've told this the day before. Like that tap room, as big as they are, it is well known as Three Floyds is. That tap room, the beer, not the distillery tap room, not the big one that they built next door, but the brewery tap room is really small for something as widely known as Three Floyds. You know, it's so quaint and so tiny and so cozy and everything else. It's,
that's how they kept it full.
Yeah, exactly. That's how they kept it full. There you go. All right. So what do you? By the way,
what's your second, John?
My second that I have now finished. Empty.
It's gone.
It's gone. Right. When have I ever done that? Was Founder's ginger spice barreled and nice. All right. It's a holiday beer that they released. I try to do one holiday beer on
12.8. Nice.
12.8% beer. And it was different. It's a barley wine. It's 12.8% barley wine. But between the ginger, the spicing, cinnamon and clove and all of that, and a little bit of the barrel notes, it's not quite the barley wine you'd expect it to be. But it was different. It was interesting. It was holiday-esque. I enjoyed it. So I would give it a thumbs up, if you will. Have at it,
Yeah.
But anyway, are you opening your third Samurai?
It's been open and sitting here warming.
And what is that?
So we said we were going to celebrate
while I open my third. There you go.
Maple syrup, National Maple Syrup Day. Oh, you're gonna throw the crawl up before I even say it. Thanks, John.
Well, anybody listening to the audio podcast can't see the crawl.
That's just true. That's fine. Thanks for stealing my thunder there. Tomorrow is already here by Home Brewing. So this is a 500. My glasses are over here because I didn't memorize what it is. But what we have here is an imperial stout brewed with maple and aged in Heaven Hill bourbon barrels. Everything about that statement I like. And the first time I had this, John and I were actually at the brewery the first time I had it. John's been enjoying this for years. As a matter of fact, he's got one cellared that's 4 years old, John? Oh, no, 6 years.
6 years old. 2018. 2018. It's the first year they did it.
Mm-hmm. This beer is luscious is a really good word for it. But the way the maple and the bourbon barrel play together in this is just spectacular, and I absolutely love this beer. 14.1, 500. I'm going to sleep well tonight. I like this.
Of course.
But let me say one thing. Kane does just an amazing job with maple.
Mm-hmm. No, they do. And to Dave's point, His 2023 tomorrow is already here, which is a 14.1% imperial stout with maple and so forth and so on. The 2018 that I found in my cellar that I have it was actually the first year they did it. Was 2018. It was not an imperial stout. It was imperial wheat wine with maple syrup aged in bourbon maple syrup barrels.
Yeah, they have a tendency of changing styles of particular beers.
Yep, they do. So,
that's the thing with maple. Maple isn't always the easiest ingredient to work with. If your heat is too high, you're going to burn it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so easy to pick it out when the maple syrup's been exposed to a high heat, because that burnt maple flavor is really not a pleasant thing. It's nothing I enjoy. But when it's done right. So, John, you've got something that you're particularly enjoying over there.
I've got something that I've taken 2 sips of and soiled myself over.
Oh boy!
There you go. It is close to home for Marty. Is 2021 Maple Jacket, 14.4% English barley wine from Revolution Brewing.
Nice.
Is there maple syrup in that?
A little bit. Straight Jacket is their regular standard barley wine, and they do a lot of different iterations of it, as well as they do with Death and all the other stouts that they do. But this one, Maple Jacket, this is by far, and I do have another can of this because.
For a change, you actually ordered 2?
I ordered 2 on Tavour. There you go.
Jack Ash usually only orders 1 of everything.
Well, I do.
And then it's sold out, and then he has his regrets.
Right. But here's the thing. It's a 14.4%. Not only is it a barley wine, it's a maple barley wine. Yes, I'm ordering 2 of those. So there you go. But look at that. That's not. There's no look at that. It's just crazy.
Oh, I poured mine into my Duvel Year of the Dragon glass.
And this is,
Nice.
Because I loved Duvel's glasses.
The toffee, the leather, the tobacco, all the barley wine feels, coupled with that sweet maple, and not over the top, not cloyingly sweet, just perfectly balanced sweet. This is 3 years old. This is 2021. It was canned. This beer was canned December 6th, 2021.
And it just dripped it all over his keyboard.
No, I didn't.
Looking at the bottom.
Yeah, no, looking at the bottom. Did you see one drip come out? Do you think I didn't pour every ounce of this beer into my glass here?
The top of the can's black. We couldn't see a drip if we tried.
Exactly. There's nothing there. But this is fantastic. Marty, you're the closest of the 3 of us to Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Up in was it Logan Square? They're in.
Your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah,
I know where the brewery. I know the street where the brewery is. As far as the neighborhood goes, that's what it is.
It's was it Milwaukee Avenue?
Kedzie.
Yeah, Kenzie. But I know it's the California stop on the red line. I knew that. But in any event, that's a really cool tap room, and it's around the corner from the production building.
Well, you know what? I apologize. You were right that the brew pub was on Milwaukee. They've closed down.
They closed the brew pub down?
Yes.
They moved it, or they no longer have a tap room?
They're closed.
Oh my God!
I think they closed on the 1st of this month.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there a reason or that you're aware of, or?
It just wasn't doing business. They never recovered from COVID.
That's curious.
It's a shame that I didn't live closer to Chicago, because I would have kept them in business.
we could have shored them up a little bit.
Yeah, so now it's just the production brewery on Kedzie.
Oh, geez. And so it's up the block and around the corner on Kedzie.
Yeah, it's close.
Yeah, it's right around there. But yeah, that brew pub. There was the last time I was there. I've been there a few times. The last time I was there, they had. Would they have 24? They have 24 taps in there, and 2 or 3 cask engines, something like that. Yeah, I made it a point. I sat there the last time I was there. I said, "We're staying here. We're taking the train back. Doesn't matter. I'm having every beer they have on tap. So, and I did. It took a while, but I did. Some of them were in flights, some of them were not. But I did have every beer they offered.
I'm starting getting a little despondent here with all these tap rooms that I've wanted to visit closing, because I was thinking of one day getting like a small RV, renting a small RV, and doing like a road tour through the Midwest, and it's starting to sound like it might be disappointing.
That's crazy. I can't believe
Surly's still open though, right?
Don't know.
Oh, sir, no, please. Surly's definitely still open. 100%, 100%. You got to get out there. I got to get you out to Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. You got to get out there. There's a lot of good liquid out in Minneapolis. On that note, though, it's crazy that in 5 minutes of conversation, Marty, you have let us know that 3 Flights and Revolution, both tap rooms, have closed.
Yeah.
Fortunately, they're still brewing beer, so that's the important.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
They're still brewing beer. That's good.
Still get their liquid.
I have to reach out to Doug Valicki from Revolution. Does the
find out.
Was it Beer Aficionado on Instagram? I believe is he does his reels are amazing. Actually, we've rescheduled him probably for the last 2 years. Every time he's been scheduled to come on the show, there's been something going on at the brewery. We had to push the show out. So
apparently there wasn't anything going on in the tap room. So if
apparently there's nothing going on in the tap room. He says that. So
if he ever used that as an excuse, we know he was
exactly.
So, call him out on it from what we hear.
That's amazing. Let me ask you, just to get off beer topic for a second, Marty. What are some of your favorite beer, cocktail, food, holiday traditions for this time of year? Obviously.
Well, we're not going to stray too far off the beer topic then.
That's fine. that's fine. That's fine.
I mean, I'm boring in this aspect. I really don't drink much alcohol outside of beer.
Okay.
If there's anything,
neither do Dave and I.
That's a lie.
The one thing my wife and I will indulge in is port or Madeira.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Madeira is actually great. I love Madeira.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
Yeah, we fell in love with Madeira. We went out to California several years ago, and did what tourists do in Napa and Sonoma.
Of course.
And we tripped across one of the smaller wineries out there, and that was the first time we had tried a really quality Madeira. We actually had it shipped out to Chicago.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Good stuff.
Very nice. And what beer? So obviously, just what we were talking about before. Obviously, the Sammy Claus and the celebration and so forth, and bells.
I try to take advantage of the seasonal beers because obviously they're only going to be around for a couple of months.
There's so many, right? You can just you can go out and just get 1 6-pack of each and be set for there's so many of them, and many of them very well, very brewed very well.
Absolutely.
It is the best. I like to call from Labor Day through New Year's. I like to call beer season. Right, between your Oktoberfest beers, your fall beers, your winter ales that come out, because anything that's available in January, February is out already before New Year's. Nothing comes out that's a winter beer in January. It comes out before Christmas, right? And then of course your Christmas ales and on from there. Everything comes out in that span. So I love calling that beer season, and I try my best to if I go into an account, if I go into a liquor store, if I'm just walking in there to buy something, if there's something I haven't had that year, it's a very bad habit of mine. I usually pick up a 4-pack or a 6-pack just to try it, as long as it intrigues me, right? So that's where I stand with that. This is delicious. How is your second beer, Marty?
The Alpha. It's much like Dave described it. It's a pretty damn hoppy porter.
Yeah.
They do some great stuff, and
that's fresh. That's this year's.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Dave, you had on the show a couple weeks ago. You had last year's.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I didn't pick it up this year. I'm kind of running out of room to store beer.
If I start storing any more beer, I'm gonna have to move out of. So
I've got to drink faster.
Or have more people over and have us help. Yeah.
Yeah, there's Union City. There's no parking. Who's going to come over? There's no parking.
I'll train it. I'll park in Secaucus and take
a train and let's. I got a stack of beer over there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's stacked up.
Yeah, and some of it. Some of it you probably I shouldn't have given you as much as I did of the.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah. We've been drinking that down. Marty, I have to imagine you have a cellar.
Yes, sir.
Or is it a true cellar or a quote air quotes cellar?
It's my basement.
Oh, so it is a true cellar.
Oh,
yeah.
And what's your estimation of the number of beers that you have in there?
After winnowing it down by about a third, I still have about 100 bottles.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But I have to give credit to certain people. I did not collect all of that on my own. There were a handful of people who helped me out. Friends who were moving out of state, people who were just reducing their own personal stash. They said, "Hey, I know somebody who wants it," and so it all kind of came my way. So yeah, I mean, I would say a good half of what's down there wasn't beer that I originally collected. It came to me. I'm the second person in line.
And you were just helping out a friend.
Exactly, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, a friend in need is,
Yeah.
Right.
It's usually a pain in the ass unless they're giving me beer.
Well, most of the time they are, though. That's the fact of the matter. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, that is definitely awesome.
It's amazing to peruse some of those labels.
Absolutely. No, I got to say, my cousin Adam and I wrote an article. Marty, I don't know if you're ever familiar in Williamsburg in Brooklyn. Was a bar called Spite and Dival.
Not the bar itself. I've heard the name.
Right. They've been around for 27 years.
Were
around. They had been around for 27 years, and the new owners of the building they were in, and they were. I won't wax nostalgic about it or anything or too much or anyway, because we've talked about it on the show. They were part and parcel of. They were definitely instrumental in the gentrification of the neighborhood, starting 27 years ago and on, right? And specifically because of that, the new landlord of the building kind of forced them out because they wanted to get other tenants in there, like a Trader Joe's or a Starbucks, or they wanted a corporate, right, tenant. And they wound up closing this past April. It is December 17th. There's still no one in the building. So, that's shame on them, right? But anyway, they had closed. And the first time I had gone there was right after they opened. My cousin Adam had taken me there. My cousin Adam had been involved in rate beer well before Bud bought rate beer. So it was when it was still viable, right?
Mm-hmm.
He'd take me there. So I wrote this article about it. And it was kind of keen on Adam, who had taken me there, my cousin. Anyway, my point of this conversation is that Adam's cellar was the best cellar I've ever seen. It was his basement, but in the back of his basement, I don't know what the people that owned the building before him, or even before them, or whatever. In the back of his basement, there was a cutout in the cinder block, and it was basically underground, right? And he was able to crawl into it, and he stored all of his beer, and he had hundreds of bottles in this area, in the basement, but in this crawl space. Like, you couldn't have asked for a better refrigeration. Like, it was, it was basically cave aging beer. Let's put it that way.
Sure.
And it was crazy. So that's the best cellar I've ever seen. But yeah, Dave nor I have a proper cellar right now.
I live in an apartment, so
okay. We cellar beer. We cellar beer. Yeah, there's no basements. Like, I live 4 blocks from the ocean. There's no basements here.
High water table, huh?
Pretty much. So what should we call it? So we cellar our beer, but I mean we keep it temperature wise, we keep it okay, but it's not in a proper cellar. So when we hear somebody actually keeping it in a cellar, we're kind of thrilled. Jealous and thrilled, yeah. So all right. I think we should get to our top threes.
I think we should.
I think it's time to get to our top threes. What do you think? Marty, we do our top three, and I think we might have mentioned this last show. We do our top threes for a reason. It's three before a reason. One, when we first started the show, it was just Dave and I. Ninth show ever, which was 4.5 years ago at this point. Our ninth show ever was our first show with a guest. But we had started our top threes before that. And there was two of us, so 3 and 3. 1933 was the repeal of prohibition. So it 3 and 3, top three worked. And also the other reason is that if we did a top 5 or a top 10, it would take way too long because Dave and I usually have 4 or 5 or 6 top threes anyway with honorable mentions. So,
and we forgot to mention a couple shows ago that we missed Repeal Day. We newer mentioned it on the show.
We
That's
did
December
miss
5th.
Repeal Day. It was December 5th. We did miss Repeal Day. I thought about that, and we're remiss about that. We'll have to put up a post.
We suck.
Putting a we suck. Here's the happy belated Repeal Day. We do it every year, and we just missed it this year.
We missed it this year. Yeah,
Hey, shit happens.
Yeah.
So being this year thing today is National Maple Syrup Day. Today
that we're celebrating, but we missed Repeal Day.
That we're celebrating, right? Exactly. On that note, it's National Maple Syrup Day, so we figured our top 3 list for today would be top 3 favorite beers with maple. Top 3 favorite beers made with maple. Marty, kick us off, please.
All right. Well, you're not going to like the first part of my answer.
All right.
I am not a huge fan of beers with maple in them unless they are done well. And unfortunately, I can say that I've had too many that weren't. So,
Of course.
I don't always reach for maple beers. That's not it's not my go-to. But I have had some very good ones over time. The first ones that come to mind, and I'm saying ones because these are both from the same brewery. Founders, the breakfast stout,
Right.
and they also do the other version, the Canadian breakfast.
Yeah.
Where
they add more maple.
But I think it works within the context of that beer. It's mapley, but it's not overwhelming. It doesn't just take over the beer.
And my favorite part about that beer is the story behind the label, where they used to have the Canadian Mountie on it, and the Royal Canadian Mounties gave founders kind of a cease and desist, not an official one, but they said, we'd rather you not portray us on your beer label. And the very next year, there was no Canadian Mountie, but the horse was there, and the horse was rearing up. It's basically saying the horse threw the Mountie.
Love it.
So I thought that was genius the way they did it.
It was genius.
That is good.
Your number. That was your number 3.
That was your number 3.
Those were 2, 1 and 2, or 2 or 3 and 2, whatever.
3 and 2. Okay. There you go.
The other one that stands out in my memory, but I kind of have to do a little explaining here as well. I don't know if you guys remember when Sam Adams first came out with Triple Bock.
Oh yeah,
I love
94, 95.
Please,
the little blue bottles.
Yes, yeah, the little
94, 95, and 97 were the 3 years they did, right? Yeah.
So anyway, in my opinion, that beer was way too mapley. And as much as I liked the concept of the beer and I appreciated it, I didn't like it because of the nature of its maple character. However, having been to the Boston Beer Company and having done a vertical of Utopias, you learned a lot about the background of the beers, starting with Triple Bock, going through Millennium, and then on to Utopias, the various vintages.
Sure.
What we were told was that apparently they made a shit ton of triple bock. So what they did is I don't know if they've remade it or they have a vat set aside, kind of like Old Ale, but apparently they still dose Utopias with a little bit of triple bock.
Triple bock.
So it still has a little bit of that mapley character, but it's a background note. It's not up front and slapping you in the face.
I want to swim in that vat.
You want to drown in that vat?
I have
happily.
You've been in the barrel room in Jamaica Plain.
Yeah.
That barrel room is amazing, and
Yes, it is.
and the Utopias that they pour in there, and the triple bock, and that I've had. But one of the best beers I ever had in there was and not to shy away from the topic here, but one of the best beers I ever had in there was the Macallan Barrel Aged Scotch Ale, and I only say that because we were talking about Scotch Ale before. It was amazing.
I missed that one.
Oh my god, it was so good, and I actually conned the guy, and Jim wasn't there, and I know Jim, but Jim wasn't there, and I actually conned the guy into let me take a growler, not a growler, a growler of it out of there. I brought it home, and I drank that thing for about 3 days.
Can't imagine what the value of that might have been.
I don't know, but he was he was all for it. I'm like, let's do it. There we go. So,
You win.
It was fantastic, but yeah, no, I know what I see what you're saying about that. You know, we've had the triple bock, but yeah, that was fantastic. I didn't even think about that. I mean, yeah, there's certainly maple notes in that. How could I forget that? There's certainly maple notes in that. It wasn't even a thought in my mind to put it on this list.
No,
it's crazy. Yeah. Cool. All right. Samurai.
You were done, Marty? Those are your three?
Yeah, those are, yep.
Kentucky Breakfast Stout, Canadian Breakfast Stout, triple bock.
I will throw a twofold honorable mention in there.
Of course.
Only because it's a brewery that broke my heart by selling out the Constellation, and that's Funky Buddha. Maple bacon porter. Mm-hmm. Maple bacon coffee porter.
Coffee porter, yeah.
And not just that one, but then they and it's funny because my brother will be on the show on Monday, and one time he decided while I was at his place, we're sitting out on his lanai because he lives in Florida, and he brings.
Yeah, you ever notice there's only lanais in Florida? You can never have a lanai anywhere else but in Florida. That's it.
And Hawaii, because that's where the word comes from.
True.
It's the name of one of the islands, one of the smaller islands.
Right.
But he brings out a beer to test me. He's like, see if you can figure out what this beer is. I'm like, you're not going to. And at this time, is before they had sold out. Like, you're really gonna hand me my favorite beer brewed in Florida and ask me what it is, because it was Buffalo in the Snow, which is maple bacon coffee porter aged in Buffalo Trace barrels.
Right.
That is a good beer. So those are kind of the honorable mentions, or dishonorable mentions, I guess, in this case, as far as I'm concerned.
No, they're honorable mentions.
I have my opinions on. I get why breweries do sell to the conglomerations. I don't have to like it.
On that note, bring that back up after I'm done with mine, because I got something to say, and there's a reason for it. We'll talk about it then. But
okay. So my number 3, Midnight Sun does a beer, an imperial stout with maple in it called Berserker, and I don't think I've ever had a beer done by Midnight Sun that was just not truly amazing. And if I ever get to Alaska, I will definitely make sure I get to Midnight Sun. I just love everything that I've ever had by them.
There you go.
I used to have a beer trading partner who was a ferry captain in Alaska, so I would get my Midnight Sun, my Alaska. That's where I first got smoked porter. Was from that trade partner. I did lose touch with that trade partner, which is a shame. Number 2, Cane. Now, even though I'm drinking a maple heavy beer here from Cane, there's one that's even a little heavier. So Marty probably wouldn't like it because it's really about the maple. Actually, my top 2 are really about the maple. Number 2 is called Dripping Maple by Cane Brewing. And this is supposed to be reminiscent of a stack of pancakes just drowning in maple syrup. And they nail it. It is really a good beer. It's when Kane does these types of beers, you're talking about a mouthfeel that's really going to coat every inch of the inside of your mouth when they do it.
Sure.
Yeah, that's the syrup. But even when there's not maple syrup in it, some of the beers along these lines do the same thing. But my number one, and I warned John ahead of time that this was going to be my number one because I know John loves this beer. When I lived in Rhode Island, I lived 4 blocks away from Smug Brewing. And I've got my Smug Brewing hat right here. This hat's so warm. It's nice. It's fleece lined. Look at this thing. You could probably walk around in Chicago even in this thing and have a warm head. But Smug Brewing did a beer called Cabin Fever. And if you gave it to somebody and didn't tell them it was a beer, it would probably take them a little while to realize it was a beer because it tastes just like maple syrup. Yep. Straight up like maple syrup. It's I don't know how Rob did what he did with this, but it blew my socks off. And he's done it a few more times since. He doesn't do it every year. One of these days, John was up there last year, and he had put it out, but they were closed when John was there.
Right. And he doesn't distribute it. So it was in the building. I was there, couldn't get in, and he wasn't even there. I couldn't knock on the door. Hey, Rob is brewing in the back. Hey, Rob, I'm here. Let me blah, blah, blah. Nope. No, there was nobody there.
And it's an old industrial area, so all the windows have bars in them. So John couldn't even break in if he wanted to.
No, I couldn't even break in if I wanted to. Didn't matter.
So those are my top 3. But now we're going to pass it off to someone who has been quoted as saying his favorite adjunct in beer is maple syrup.
Completely opposite of Marty.
Yeah.
My favorite adjunct in beer is indeed maple. And
so this should be an interesting journey.
Silly. All right. So my honorable mentions are, I got to say, because these are like, they're not, I'm not going to go back 30 something years, obviously, as traditional beers or whatever, but I got to give an honorable mention nod out to Harvest from Long Trail. Harvest Ale from Long Trail. It's a brown ale and brown ale with maple. And I mean, is it in my top 3? No, but I got to give a nod to it because I get it every year.
It's one of the first in the area.
Right. And my other one,
and they use local New York maple.
Vermont maple.
Well, I'm sorry, Long Trail's Vermont. I was thinking of a different brewery.
Vermont.
Yeah.
And my other honorable mention is, and I haven't had this beer, and apparently they still make it. I just looked today, and they still make it, but they haven't been in Jersey for 10 years, maybe ish. And that's Star Hill Last Leaf. It's a brown ale again from Star Hill Brewing, which is in Virginia. And our buddy Gene actually used to be a New Jersey rep. A rep for Star Hill. And that's it takes me back. Doesn't take me back 30, 35 years, but it takes me back 10, 12 years. It's still relevant, right? I got to give a nod to them for all my mentions. Anyway, and of course, I'm not going to put it on my own mention list, but that the beer that's Dave's number 1, the Cabin Fever, is just, that's an amazing beer. And when he introduced me to that beer, he gave me 1 can of it. Okay.
Because I don't like him that much. I just want
to
tease
I mean,
him.
that's such a tease. I'd rather him not have given me it at all. All right. So yeah, I have this beer. It's gone. I'm like, I want more. Now I can't.
I got you more of it later.
Yeah, you did. So anyway, all right. So my top 3. Here we go. Number 3 is from Evil Twin.
Interesting.
Evil Twin, which is basically a contract brewery, right? It's McKellar's brother. All right, if you're aware. And it's Michigan Maple Jesus.
The Jesus series.
The Jesus series, yes. Michigan Maple Jesus is it's a 12%. It's a 12% stout. And there's just a lot of maple in there, and not a cloying amount, the right amount for a 12% stout, but it was really, really well brewed. My number 2 is from, and I'm going to stay in the same area, that area, Brooklyn, New York, Grimm Artisanal Ales. And that's Maple Bourbon Barrel Double Negative. And I do believe the last time I had it was at Grimm, and you were there, Dave.
And I think I had that too.
I think you did.
That was a sticky beer.
Mm-hmm. It's very sticky beer, but in a good way.
Yes.
That was fantastic. But my number one is going to be from a brewery that was Dave's number two, and that's Kane in New Jersey. And that's going to be double barrel aged maple syrup, A Night to End All Dawns. All right. Anteed is the acronym for A Night to End All Dawns. That is Kane's barrel aged stout release of the year. Now they do like 30 of them, but that's their main one.
Yeah,
they do.
That's fair.
That's the main one they do. And they do their main version, and they do a bunch of adjuncts. And in 2019, 5 years ago, they did a maple syrup version, which is double barrel aged maple syrup anteed, and it was stupid good. Again, not cloying. See, that's the other thing too. Like, and Marty, don't get me wrong, I understand where you're coming from. I don't. As much as I like maple syrup, I don't like drinking a cloying beer. You know, I don't like something that's like super sweet. I'm getting a toothache from drinking the beer, right? Right. But if it's got a good amount of maple in it and it's still reserved enough to express the other factors of the beer, you know, I'm getting the malts, I'm getting the even some of the hops. You know, I'm getting the other nuances of the beer. Then it's done right. And this one was probably the best one. So kudos to Mike. I've known Mike for many, 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 many years. And kudos to Mike and everybody at his brewery, and everybody that's ever worked at his brewery, and everybody that we know that has worked at his brewery.
Who have their own breweries.
And yeah, exactly. Mike's Kane is definitely a launching point for a lot of brewery owners in the state of New Jersey. That's for sure. But in any event, that's my number one. So,
how widely is Kane distributed?
I don't know how far. I know they're distributed in New Jersey, obviously, but they're distributed in New York and Pennsylvania. I don't know where. I couldn't tell you where else they're distributed. We can get you some.
Mm-hmm.
We'll send you some.
I'm just, I'm trying to think if I've never heard of it. I've never seen it around.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering how close they might be to Illinois.
You know what? I have to swing by there in the next couple of days. I'm going to be right there. I'm going to stop in, and I usually see Mike for the holidays anyway, and Glenn and the rest of the guys over at Kane. I'll stop in there and I'll ask him. And one way or another, though, I'll get you some stuff and get it out to you. You deserve to have some of this. You definitely need to try some of this.
We'll steer away from the maple stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's as good as you say it is,
it's really good, Marty. It really is well done.
Actually, what we should probably find for him is some of the brunch beers.
Yeah, they're good too.
Because his Mexican brunch, his Sunday brunch, these beers have maple in it, but maple is just one of the elements in it. Mm-hmm. Mexican brunch is one of my. I think I've got a couple sitting over there from different years. One of my favorite things that Mike puts out on a regular basis.
Yeah, he does that. He does that every year, and he does a lot of holiday stuff too. I mean, he's got Holy Nights is out now, right?
Yes, and I actually have a bottle of Holy Nights from last year.
Yep, he's got a few things out right now. But in any event, yeah, we'll get you. I'll talk to him, but we'll get you some stuff out there. It's silly that you haven't had any Kane.
I've never even heard of it.
All right.
Interesting, because usually if I'm traveling somewhere and I mention I'm from Jersey, they'll say, "Oh, do you know Kane Brewing?" But that's usually just in the Northeast. Mm-hmm. You know, they're known around the Northeast. I don't know. You know.
Yeah, I go up to I probably travel in New England a lot more than I travel anywhere else, only because it's easy to get to. If I'm going away for a weekend or a long weekend or whatever, I'm up to Massachusetts or go up to Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, whatever. And yeah, most of the people up there know Kane. They'll ask me, hey, you know what? Yeah, I haven't had any of your stuff, but I've had Kane, so and that's fine, because I mean, Cane's been around for 13 years now, 13 and a half years now. Same as
that? I thought it was 14. And
No,
the thing is,
2011, August. Cane and Carton both opened in August of 2011.
And it's funny though, because there is one place in Maine you go to whereas the rest of them know Cane, love Cane, there's one place you go and they love their Carton. And that's actually Allagash.
Allagash, yeah. Allagash loves Carton. And you know why Allagash loves Carton? Oddly enough, and I don't mean, Marty, I'm sorry, I'm keeping you out of like some of the conversations, but which we got one of the guys, and I forget his name. Forgive me, I apologize if he's listening or anybody that knows him is listening. One of the guys that works at Allagash and has been there for many years actually went to college in Vermont with Doug Phillips, who hasn't worked at Carton in 10, 12 years, but when he was at Allagash, brought Carton up there because he knew them, right? Because of Doug Phillips, and they've just loved it since, and it's been crazy. So, but they definitely love them up there, and they love us up there too.
Yes,
Room guys.
Yes,
there you go. They've been on the show. So, Marty, so what's in store beer wise or anything else food wise, tradition wise for you next week over the next week from now through Christmas for the holidays?
We do a very traditional dinner. We don't do anything out of the ordinary. We don't do Thai food or Italian.
No fa ra ra.
Yeah, duck.
You don't get a duck with a head cut off. You don't do that.
No, I mean it's usually the usual, the spiral ham, mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes.
Sure.
All the trimmings, all the usual stuff.
Sure, and that's on. And I got to ask, that's on Christmas Day or Christmas Eve?
Christmas Day. Yeah.
Christmas Day. Okay, fair enough.
We actually have a little family kind of tradition. We started with our kids. We do build your own pizzas on Christmas Eve.
That's really cool.
I like that. I do like that.
And putting on whatever ingredient toppings you like, and simple.
I do like that. I do like that. That's been going for a while. That's a tradition with the kids.
Yep.
How long has that been going? How old are the kids?
Oh, they're in their 30s now.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, mine are one of mine's two of mine are in the 30s, but
okay.
But you still do it.
Yeah, I mean, they now have. My son is now married. My daughter has a significant other. So yeah, we just have a lot of fun, play games, and
that's really cool.
How about it? Yeah, I mean, yeah, my girls, both my girls, they're my oldest. One's in her 30s, one's close approaching her 30s. They're both getting married next year. 4 months apart. I got 2 weddings.
Oh, lucky you.
Yeah, shoot me now.
Wow, tough year.
It's gonna be fun.
It'll
be good. It'll be good.
Can you get a monthly rental on the Tux, John?
I'm going. Can I sell you this pen? It's a really good pen.
Just $350.
Yeah, really. 300. I wish I could sell it for $300. Anyway, but in any event, all right. So, Marty, your February. What was the date in February
8th.
again?
8th.
February 8th. February 8th.
It's the week before Super Bowl. We did that on purpose.
What's the day? What's the day of the week?
Saturday.
It's a Saturday, so it's the day before the Super Bowl.
The week before.
It's a week.
Saturday before.
Saturday before. So the Super Bowl is actually on the 16th of February. Sure.
Must be.
Is it?
Let's see.
Double check that.
I should look this up.
Please do. Marty, if you're not aware, I actually do a sports podcast.
It's actually February 9th. It's the day.
It's February 9th. It's the day before the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was, but I was like, interesting. All right.
And it's the day after my next doctor's appointment.
That's actually a better day though. That it's the day before the Super Bowl. That's really cool because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be, anticipating the beer drinking they're going to do the next day during the Super Bowl, and they're going to be watching that.
Yes, and maybe a little pre-gaming going on.
Mm. Well, I got to ask you, just out of curiosity, football fan?
I was until the Bears sucked this season.
we're Giants fans, so
we aspire to be
Oh no,
Bears
no,
fan.
no.
But here's the thing. Giants fans and Bears fans, back through the 70s, 80s, 90s were very much akin
Yeah.
because they were the two fan bases that actually loved watching their defense take the field.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right? No other team could say that. But it's like our offense's job was to not lose the game.
In the 80s, Chicago's offense was on the field. Who we watching?
Refrigerator Perry coming
No.
in.
We're watching Walter Payton. That's who we're watching.
Yes. Oh, sweetness.
We're watching Sweetness. Okay. Giants offense coming on the field. And there's a few things we're watching, but who we're really watching? Rambo. We're watching Mark Bavaro.
Yeah, oh, yes.
Yeah.
And that's a jersey I do have.
And I think it's so fitting for this conversation that the 85 season Super Bowl champion is the Bears and the 86 season Super Bowl champion is the Giants. So, I mean, it works out well.
And those two teams were the epitome of the linebacker era.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
Mike Singletary was one of the smartest men to ever play the game.
Not so much one of the smartest men to ever coach a team.
To play.
And I feel bad because I really love Mike Singletary. Don't get me wrong. I say that in jest. I feel bad for him and what happened in San Francisco, but he was amazing when he played.
Yeah.
Well, you've got a guy who was undersized, under speed, but he was always in that hole.
Mm-hmm.
He always knew where to be because he could read an offense. Mm-hmm. You had no smarter player on the field than Mike Singletary.
Fair enough.
Really appreciate him.
Marty, on that note, Super Bowl, not winner, but Super Bowl, the game, AFC, NFC, prediction. Who's in it?
Couldn't tell you.
Couldn't tell you?
I hope the Lions make it. That's all I can say.
Fair enough.
Wow, that's big of you. That's really big of you as a Chicago fan.
Yeah, you know what?
I'm telling you, I'm not a Chicago fan.
Anymore.
I'm rooting for the Lions. I know they're underdogs. They're doing well this year. I know they're plagued by injuries at the moment. Yep. But I would really like somebody from, the NFC.
NFC North, yeah.
Somebody represent the Central. Obviously they haven't been there before, so it's time.
I'm with you. I mean, the Giants have been out of it since week 3, I think. But
preseason,
yeah. But spring. But I am my grandfather back in the 20s was bet in grammar school. Was bet by a friend of his who my grandfather liked baseball, but he didn't have a team per se. And a friend of his was a Yankee fan. That the Yankees that day were playing the Tigers, and his friend bet him a nickel or whatever he bet him. It was the 20s, right? So he bet him whatever he bet him that the Yankees would win the game. And my grandfather said, "Sure, I'll take the bet." And the Tigers wound up winning the game. So from that day forward, Detroit anything was my grandfather's team. And this is North Jersey, right? I mean, this is North Jersey. Yeah. He could have been a Yankee fan, Giant fan, blah 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 blah, right? He was a Detroit. If Detroit, my father always said, if Detroit had a pinochle team, he would have rooted with it. So, so he was a huge Lions fan. So yeah, I always every year, anytime the Lions do good, I'm a Giants fan, but anytime the Lions do good, I'm going to root for the Lions. So this is for Grandpa. I hope they overcome they have 12 players out on defense. 12 players out on defense. 12 starters from the first week gone. And most of them important. And they're still in first place. Wow. So let's hope that they can do it. So.
And if they get healthy, I think this past weekend we saw it. I'm hoping we saw a preview of the Super Bowl with the Bills Lions.
I 100% agree, and I'll finish with saying this. There was a meme put out there by NFL memes, that it's pretty.
Yeah,
they do them right. He says the Super Bowl America wants, and it said Lions versus Bills. The Super Bowl was somehow going to get Chiefs versus Eagles.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't. I hope they're wrong too.
I do too. So anyway, all right, Marty. Any parting shots before we wrap it up?
Well, happy holidays to everyone. Start with
Absolutely.
that. Tune in on February 8th, I
February
guess.
8th. Marty, we're going to simulcast it. We'll put the feed, and when you guys go live, we'll simulcast it on the Locker Room
Cool.
channel too. We'll put that up there.
Awesome.
Absolutely,
Fantastic.
100%.
Very cool.
And that's February 8th. What time of day is it going to be?
Still not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, the reason for that is because we are trying to play the time zones. Right now, we're working with breweries from coast to coast.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to make sure that it works with everybody's time frame.
Sure.
So
100%. All right. Well, I mean, we'll talk before then. We'll figure it out, and we'll keep in contact, and we'll make sure that gets up there. But we'll definitely simulcast it. So wherever whatever the feed is, it'll be up on the Locker Room Guys, and we'll put it up on the website as well.
awesome.
100%. Just keep us posted on that, and anything else. I thank you so much for coming on. And I don't want to end the show because I want to keep talking to you.
Of course,
I really do. Yeah, we got to get you back on. We should do a regular segment at some point, or regular show at some point with you. There's so many things. I could sit here for another 3 hours and just chat with you, but I don't want to do that to our listeners, and I'm gonna do that to you. So.
And I have to work in the morning.
And Dave has to work. Well, I have to work in the morning too. We all have to work in the morning. So
No, I don't.
Rub it in. Why aren't you drinking a third beer then, Marty?
I will be.
By the way,
what will that third beer be, Marty?
Well, if the Santa Claus was chilled, I would, but no, it's not.
It's not.
Got to remember what I have in the fridge.
I just want to tell everybody, and I'm only going to say this one time on this show anyway. This maple jacket, and specifically speaking of the 2021, but for that matter, I mean, I've had straight jacket before, and I've had other iterations of the barley wine from Revolution. This is ridiculously good. Like I can't even begin to explain to you how well this is made. This beer right here, this 12-ounce can. Is amazing. So if you have the opportunity to buy any, if you're in Chicago, when you go to any of the, just the name just escaped me. What's the Marty? What's the big? It's not a chain, but they have a few stores in Chicago. The big craft beer.
You mean Binny's?
Binny's.
Yeah. There's like 28 locations throughout Chicagoland.
Yeah, Binny's is it's crazy. Yeah. If you're there, anywhere else, honestly, anywhere you can find this, anywhere you find maple jacket, if you have any liking to maple whatsoever, get this beer. If you have any liking to barley wines whatsoever, because the maple is not overpowering, it's just it's there and it's really well done, get this beer. It's so good.
Well noted.
Revolution owes you a check.
I'm going to call Doug tomorrow and see what we can do. So.
They don't owe us a check. They owe us to show up on the show.
Yeah, just Doug, just come on the show. I don't need the money. Just come on the show. We're good.
You're not tied down to the tap room anymore. So
this is true, and I feel really bad for that.
I do
and
too.
I'm joking about it. That was a cool space. And again, Marty, obviously you've been there. It wasn't a big tap room either. It was small.
No, not at all.
It was very. It was probably smaller than 3 Floyds that we talked about before.
Probably.
Yeah, it really was.
Wow.
Yeah, it's tiny. But it was really
probably no death metal.
It was no death metal at all. No, it was really quaint, and it was really. There was a bar that went along the wall and along the other side, and there was a middle section that you just sat at. There was nobody behind it, but it was bar height.
And there was another wall. There was another wall.
And then the front. It was very small. It was very small. It was very small. It was very small. But it was very quaint. It was really cozy, and it was a really cool tap room. So, but yeah, I mean, Marty, maybe you don't know. Do they still own that building? That
I don't know.
All right. I'm just curious if they just gave it up, because I don't know if they owned it or they rented it, or whatnot. I'm assuming they own where the production space is.
Question for Doug.
Yeah. So I'll ask Doc. I'll ask Doc.
Yeah.
So, but it was fan. But seriously though, this is fantastic. And people, if you aren't following Marty and the American Craft Beer Hall of Fame on Facebook, please do so. Check that out. We're gonna I'll post up either tonight or early tomorrow morning. We'll post up the links to all of that on the Facebook page. So if you're listening to this after the fact on any of the podcast channels, go to our Facebook page, click the link, and get to his page, and follow the American Craft Beer Hall of Fame and Marty for that matter. And check out everything they're doing, because this is amazing. And then of course, February 8th, we'll simulcast it. We'll post it up, so it'll be live on that as well.
Cool.
All right.
Appreciate it.
No, appreciate it. We appreciate you. Kidding, Marty?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Marty, thank you for coming on the show. We seriously appreciate it. Stick around. We're going to talk to you for a couple minutes before we sign off. But on that note, we will wrap up the show for today. We want to thank everybody for watching. And for those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thank you for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.lagerroom.com. That's LAGERROOM.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, our YouTube channel. All of them are at The Lager Room. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on Facebook, YouTube, X, and Twitch every Tuesday night around 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Except for the next 2 weeks.
Except, I was literally about to say that. Except for the next 2 weeks, they'll be on Monday nights around 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, because Tuesday nights are Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, respectively. And for those,
we've already have a reason to drink on those nights.
Well, that's a given.
And people, the only reason we did this show is to give us a reason to drink on Tuesdays.
Right, exactly.
So people are full disclosure.
Well, in the interest of full disclosure, right. Next Tuesday night, oddly enough, I can drink Tuesday afternoon, and then I have to slow down a little bit because I'll be like 35 minutes away from home on Christmas Eve, and I got to drive to home at some point in the evening.
I'm sure there's a floor somewhere that will accept your prone
No,
body.
no, there is, but I got to get home at a certain time, so it is what it is. But anyway, and for those of you who just want to listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on our audio host, Spreaker, as well as iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, Audible, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music Podcasts, TuneIn Podcast Addict, Castbox, Deezer, Podchaser, Listen Notes, pretty much anywhere you can find an audio podcast, you will find the Lager Room Guys podcast. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one of our feeds and you will never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of your week. Have a wonderful weekend, Marty. Once again, thank you so much for coming on the show with us. It's been amazing. It's amazing every time you come on the show with us, but this particular holiday show has been amazing for me, with a lot of the nostalgia and everything else we discussed. So I do appreciate it, as does Dave.
Of course I do.
Of course you do. Anyway, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of your week. Have a wonderful weekend. Drink a lot of beer responsibly. Drink a lot of beer, but drink responsibly.
Actually, you can cut that down. Just
you can do that. You can do that.
Cut out those two middle words. Yeah, I like that.
But you just take the butt drink out, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Drink a lot of beer.
Butt drink.
Butt
drink. That's
butt drink. Drink a lot of beer responsibly actually works much better if we do it that way. Anyway, and we will talk to you next Monday night, folks. Christmas Eve,
yes,
with our Christmas week show, and we will talk to you then, folks. Take care. Cheers.
Cheers.